So this was the first project that I've ever recorded, and I wanted to make this farmhouse table. I started off the project by cutting my 4x4s and cut them to a length of 29 inches, and then went to my table saw and started notching out the hole in which the cross members for the width would go into the 4x4s. I set my guard to the length of 3, so that it would be 3.5 inches, and then set the depth to 1.5 inches, because a 2x4 is normally 3.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I then went to my chop saw and got my 2x4s and cut the cross members for both the top and the bottom of the legs. So the top cross member is a little bit longer than the bottom, and this is what they basically look like after I was done. I also marked the bottom cross members for the notch that the stretcher bar would be placed in. I then went back to my chop saw, or my table saw, again at a depth of 1.5 inches, and cut out the holes in which the stretcher bar would go across. After I was done, this is what they ended up looking like. I also went through and lightly sanded all of the 2x4s and the 4x4s that I used for the legs. Being a farmhouse table, I kind of wanted it to have a rough look, so I didn't sand them super smooth, because you want it to basically look homemade, farmhouse style. I then went back and rough fitted everything, making sure that it fit perfectly. These are the legs with the width cross members and the stretcher bar going across the middle. Now, later on I found out the stretcher bar was a bit long and had some give, so in the middle of it I took another 4x4 post and put it underneath to kind of hold the center of that stretcher bar together. But this is what it looks like. When I did the measuring, it would have been too wide to get it through my house, so I just assembled the width, and I didn't put the stretcher bar attached. I then went back through and took the cross members on the length of the table and cut pocket holes in it to attach the tabletop, and pocket holes on the sides to attach it to the 4x4 posts. And there it is with the pocket holes. I then brought it into the house, again because I said it was too wide to fit through the doors, and came through and assembled the cross members that went across the length of the top, and then put the stretcher bar across the bottom of the table frame. The table frame is 7 foot long. My tabletop will be 9 foot. And this is what it looks like completely assembled. Next day of work, I went out there and started working on the tabletop. The tabletop is a centerpiece of a 2x10 and 2 side pieces on either end of 2x8s, and it'll have a breadboard across the width at the both ends of the table. So I drilled pocket holes in the boards about every foot, and then attached them with glue and pocket hole screws, using a clamp as I went along to make sure that I didn't have any gaps in between the length of the boards from bowing. Went back through and finished up the rest of the assembly, again with the pocket screws. The next morning when I came out to do the other two, I realized that on one end of the boards the bowing was so bad that it was starting to separate, so I put 2 more pocket screws in that side just to hold it nice and firm. I was using about 1.5 inch long pocket screws, and that managed to get the whole thing fairly straight and put together. This is what it looks like with the all the boards put together, minus the breadboards on the ends. And since they were 8 foot long 2x8s and 2x10s, I have to trim for the breadboards. So I went through and marked what it would be, and then took just my circular saw and measured and cut one end at 1 inch, and then measured the other end to where total length would be 108 inches. I went through and cut, and then went back through and measured and make sure that the length was right, and it was. In the next video, I will finish up the tabletop.